Welcome to Online Visibility through Strategic Networking. My name is Sigrid Kaste. I'm a global online networking and visibility strategist.
And I'm Lynnaire Johnston. I'm an executive visibility specialist. And each week, the two of us explore what it actually takes for senior professionals to become visible, recognized, and trusted online.
Now, we're going to discuss today the networking strategy that builds global visibility fast. Lynnaire, I want to ask you, networking on LinkedIn, what is your point or your point of difference there?
Well, I think it's very important to think about random networking and strategic networking, Sigrid. And so most people tend to react. They network reactively. They'll attend events here and accept requests there and hope that something sticks. But in actual fact, that is not the best way to go about it, because you may not be reaching the right people, attending the right events, or accepting the right request. So alternatively, look at a process of strategic networking. So that means identifying who you need to be known by and working backwards from there. Because with LinkedIn, as with other platforms, it's important that your network includes the people who are the target audience for you. Who do you want to see your content, look at your profile, attend your events, whether they're networking or whether they are something else? And so I think that being strategic about how you network on LinkedIn is an important idea that we need to be thinking more about. Sigrid, do you agree with that?
I totally agree, Lynnaire, and you've just given me the cue for something that I'd like to share here in our discussion today, and that is strategic thinking about what is the outcome you actually want to achieve with networking. And when you are clear on what you want to achieve, you can create your visibility much faster. So from my perspective, in terms of networking, there are various different types of networking, particularly in the online area. So we, of course, have the two types of categories. We've got the offline, in the room, in person, and then we've got the online. But in the online, there's a whole variety as well. And that is where you can go to what I call more social type networking, which is more casual in a way. It could be regularly, but a social one does not necessarily focus on the outcome. So you're going there to make connections and perhaps feel good and maybe exchange some ideas. Okay, if that works for you, perfectly okay. That's one setup. Then there's another one, which is a very, very strict one, where you are really measured on how you perform, how regularly you show up, what you bring to the table each week, and who for. And for some people, that works really, really well. Look, I've done that for many years in the past, and I did like it at the time. But I know a lot of people today, with online and doing all the other things we do online, as we've discussed in the past, doing posting, putting content out, that can become really heavy. That can become very difficult to have to constantly focus on achieving this particular outcome for the whole group. So that might not be for everybody. And of course, then there is the online one, where you really, as you mentioned, engage and look at, are these connections that will give me and show me and share for me who I really want to be visible to. And of course, we're talking about LinkedIn. How does that impact working and being visible on LinkedIn as well? And this is why I like and have created the way I do it with the live streaming into LinkedIn. That gives you that visibility. And so if you use that, but overall, as you said, it's really important to focus on being committed to doing it regular. Is that, would you agree with that one, Lynnaire?
Oh, absolutely. But I also think there's another aspect to this that we ought to be considering when it comes to online events, Sigrid, and that is our global reach. You know, when I first started on LinkedIn back in 2016, I really started to pay attention to it and work with it. I suddenly realized that I no longer had to only network with people in my city. And at that stage, I was doing a lot of in-person networking at local events. And when I woke up to the fact that LinkedIn gave me access to people all around the world, it just opened my eyes considerably to how I could help people in different places. So if you're in a business where you don't work just locally with people, that you can offer something that reaches nationally, regionally, or even globally, that is one of the major impacts that I think networking on LinkedIn can give you. But a lot of people are still thinking local, in my view, whereas with AI, we need really to have a larger presence online globally. And you know, when AI is looking at an expert in your field, or looking for an expert in your field, it's not looking for someone just in your local town. They are looking at something that is much wider than that, which is why I think that we need to be looking as senior professionals at networking outside our own industry and our geography. But I confess that this is a global mindset shift. So it's not something that will appeal to everybody, because it's not easy to connect across time zones, as you and I both know. But we can reach people in different industries, and we can reach out to people on other platforms in an intentional way. And I think that's what separates local recognition from international authority. And I think that's such an important point that I just want to say it again. It separates local recognition from international authority. And your events, Sigrid, your global online networking events, do reach a global audience, which is one of the reasons why I think that they work so spectacularly well. I bet you agree with that too.
I do agree with that. Of course, I have to agree with it. And I think what you've just shared about the global opportunity that we have, particularly on the LinkedIn platform, of course, you know, that does support being visible fast or faster, because when we do connect with a global audience as professionals, as coaches, consultants, we have that opportunity. And you, of course, brought AI, and we can't talk about anything without AI these days, isn't it? That's always in the discussion, always in our mentioning of things. So if we can be connecting with a global audience, and that global audience will cite ourselves or connect with us on posts, for example, in commenting. We talked about commenting in another episode being an important component of it. We can really make a difference for ourselves, but also for others, you know, having this collaboration in a way, even if it's an informal collaboration, by simply mentioning others, from connecting, networking, messaging, all things that we've already brought into the conversation previously, that keeps coming back in, because those are all components of visibility, and particularly global visibility. And when we now bring that AI back in, AI looks globally, doesn't it, Lynnaire? It doesn't just look at, oh, you know, Sigrid's in Australia, let's just find people there, or Lynnaire's in New Zealand, let's just find people there. It looks at, where are these two mentioned? Who mentions them? Where are they being out there? Yes?
Well, absolutely. But I think there's one thing that we need to be aware of with this in terms of global versus local, and that is the size of our networks, Sigrid, because while there's a compounding effect of a small, strong network, bigger isn't better. You know, when we have a curated network of 50 well-connected, aligned people, they'll generally give us more visibility than 5,000 people who really don't know our names, they don't know what we do, they don't know how they can help refer us, and frankly, they're not really interested in us in the first place. So I think that it's quality over quantity we need to be thinking about when we talk about our networking. And yes, it's important to network with a lot of people, because you don't know who knows who, and if other people in in your network have got larger networks that they're really engaged with, well, then that opens the door for you to be able to network into their network as well. And that feels more strategic, I think, rather than just settling for a bit here and a bit there and a bit everywhere, which was what I mentioned right at the beginning, that kind of random sort of networking. And I think that this is not just about networking. This is about building your LinkedIn community as well. It's all very well having a huge network, but how many of those people actually know you, like you, trust you, and will refer you, Sigrid? Because I think that most people just look at the numbers and they don't really look at the quality. So I am a big believer that bigger isn't better. It's all about having those well-connected, aligned people in your network.
And I think you're absolutely right. I agree with you. And I think that brings us to concluding on this particular topic of networking, you know, the networking strategy that builds global visibility fast. As you have said throughout and pointed to, random is not the way to do it. It's doing it strategically and being consistent in doing that and in being there. And I think that makes all the difference there. So from your perspective, I think your parting words on this particular one, Lynnaire,
would be that it is important to be intentional about your network, and that just trying to throw all kinds of messages out to all kinds of people is not the way to grow it. Be intentional, Sigrid. That's my parting tip for today.
I love that word, intentional. That's a really great word. I'll pick up on that now. So be intentional, and be intentional also to check below the video, because we always put some interesting links there. Connect with us, make sure if you haven't already. And of course, also subscribe to our channel, which I want to mention as well, because then you know when the next episode comes about. And our next episode will be the #1 visibility mistake senior professionals make online. That is going to be a big topic for you, Lynnaire.
It will indeed. So until then, be as visible as you are valuable.